What they have to weigh is that even with military strikes, while they could weaken the regime more, which already has been weakened by a terrible economy, by what the United States and Israel did in taking out their nuclear reactors, that's probably not enough to be able to overthrow that regime. That regime has had a lot of challenges, and their bureaucracy and their military elite are deeply entrenched. It's probably about 1 million people that depend on that regime for their livelihood, meaning that they're basically raping the country and getting ill-gotten gains, if you will. But they have a big incentive, because if the regime is overthrown, they know they're going to lose whatever they have and perhaps even be in jail, if not be killed. So they have a lot to lose and a lot to gain. So that's, and of course, analysis assessment, that's weighing heavily on the administration. That said, there is a view in the administration. There is a view in the administration that perhaps wants to duplicate what we'll now call the Venezuela model, where instead of bringing in big armies like the United States did to Afghanistan, Iraq, they will now bring in a very small, highly disciplined military elite units that will take out a top leader or a few people at the top. And they will do that because they want stability. They don't want to own it. They don't want to have boots on the ground. And they will do that because they feel that that's a better outcome than having a Vietnam-type quagmire that obviously America's decision makers are weighing right now.
Jason Miller was in the studio at the top of the show, Harley, and he was saying that actually the discussions which are going on, very much as you've just said there, will be about not just step 1, but step 2, step 3, step 4, so that there isn't another vacuum left in the Middle East to cause huge disruption. Because it does seem at the moment, perhaps if the situation in Iran can be settled in whatever way President Trump decides to do that, that we could be entering a period of peace in the Middle East. How likely do you think that is?
Well, if the regime is so weakened, that could go either way. Because they're so weak, they may want to lash out and show that they have prestige and influence, which would be reckless because it would invite Israeli and possibly American retaliatory action. On the other hand, if you get even weaker, you may pull back. And so to your point about this creating conditions for peace, it can do that. But it's very, very complicated because to be able to overthrow that regime, you really need millions of people in the streets for some prolonged period of time. You're not having that now. That's what Iran had in 1979 when they overthrew the Shah. And you really need also members of the security forces to defect. We're not seeing that yet. So the question is, what does a regime do when they're cornered? And that nobody knows. So that's the dilemma that U.S. policymakers are debating right now. How to assert American power, be seen as coming to the aid of the Iranian people, and then have leverage and influence over Iran for the future if they don't topple the regime. This is what they're kind of struggling with. Because remember, this regime supplies 90% of the oil that they sell goes to China. So to a meaningful degree, this is about China, like Venezuela arguably was about China. China gets oil from 3 countries, Venezuela, Iran, and Russia. And so if they're able to stop oil going to China, that gives America enormous leverage with China.
Yeah. Well, it's a very tense situation, Harley, there's no doubt about that. And I imagine that events will ramp up at least by the weekend, if not before. But thank you so much. Your expertise is really appreciated, Harley.